in the papers that the Jews created the coronavirus to kill the Muslims.
The who created what?
The Jews, that we created the coronavirus to kill the Muslims. Look at these idiots.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
What the?
Really. Hi.
Okay, we're going to get ourselves ready to start Havdallah. Huh? Okay, we're going to now do the Havdallah. Yeah. By the way, I want to welcome everyone and just tell everyone that we called it 8:30, but we didn't give good warning. Next week, we'll do it again 8:30. Havdallah. But I think get earlier, the Shabbat is finished. We can do it earlier. Let me just get myself on here. Okay.
Lilia? Oh.
It's fine. Perfect. Come closer.
Hi, Moti.
Okay, we're going to start the Havdallah. Rosie, you can get in there, Mati. Ye El Yeshua si Ki yaziv zimras Adonai vayehi Yeshua Ushiach Mayim Desasain Ni Mayinei HaYeshua Ladoyinoi HaYeshua Allah Yechasechasevela Adonai Tzevawai Siyimanu Nizgavlanu Elehei Yakoisela Adonai Tzvais Ashrei Yodam Ba Yarbach Adonai Hoshia Melech Yaneinu Ve'yai Mekareinu Oila Yehudim Haisa Yirav V'Sigimcha V'Sawasain Vikar Kenti Yelanu Kais Shvoiseso V'Shem Adonai Ekros Avri Maranon Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'nei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'nei minei besamim. Amati lebei kodesh lechoil, benay lechaysha v'Yisrael amin, ben yoy mashvi, l'sheisha tipi amaza, baruch atah Adonai amati lebei kodesh lechoil. out the candle. The blessings. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. We're taking the blessings for everyone. For wisdom, Parnasah, Mashiach, and all beautiful things in life that we should have and be blessed in our lives. We're going to make a bracha achrona. Then we'll tell our weekly story, inspirational story of a tzaddik. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam, ala gefen ve'al pri hagefen. Atu esaseh la'aretz chem v'dei bracha v'shliach v'chal v'sen lachem v'yov esbeim torachem na'alei yisrael machu v'shayim v'lech v'atzim v'shkach v'dech v'atzchach v'lech v'lech v'nei shayim v'lech 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 ורח קדוש ובתורה כי אתה אדוני תבקר מלכה לארץ ועל הגפן והפרי גפן ברך אתה אדוני על הארץ והפרי הגפן. We're now going to light, we need 2 candles. We're now going to light the 2 candles, and we're going to share a story. As we know, this week, we mentioned earlier those who were on, this week is a great week. On Monday, Sunday night Monday, is the birthdays of both great luminaries of the Hasidic movement. The founder of the Hasidic movement, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, was born on the 18th of El in the year 5458 Nachas, which is 322 years ago. The Alter Rebbe was born on the 18th of El, 47 years later, the year 5505, which is 275 years ago. And both of these people revolutionized the world with the teaching of Hasidus. There were many other Hasidic leaders, but these were the 2 revolutionaries that started different parts of the movement that transformed Jewish life, and it's preparing the world for Mashiach. Now, very often we tell a story of a miracle, but the lives of the Rebbes were not just about miracles. Miracles was actually something that we said that was a matter of fact. A person is close to Hashem, can bless, and other things, has an insight, but that's not the greatness of the leadership of all the Rebbes, the Alter Rebbe, Zaman and the Baal Shem Tov included. The greatness of the leadership is how they help people learn how to discover the greatness within them and how to change and how to live up to be closer to Hashem and to their fullest potential. So the story I want to tell you about is connected to the Haskalah movement. So in the time of the Alter Rebbe, it was a time when the Enlightenment, which was a movement that began in France, Germany, Austria. Initially, the Enlightenment was for the Christians against Christianity, but then it spread to Jews, and many people bought into this concept, and those parts of Western Europe bought into the concept of changing Judaism. Let's move away from archaic faith and belief, move to more logical and similar to the secular ways of releasing ourselves from the clutches of religion to a more enlightened way of seeing the world. And the Haskalah movement initially, when it came to Eastern Europe, realized that they were dealing with mostly a religious community, came in a very clandestine way. And they used to hide their true identity. They used to come in, infiltrate into communities, get involved in community positions, especially in education with children, and try to lead the children down the wrong path, down the path of heresy, etc., etc. So this happened at the time of the Alter Rebbe, and it only grew, and the Hasidim, the Alter Rebbe, fought it very strongly. But it wasn't an easy battle. So this is a story about a fellow's name was Shimon from the city of Zamut in Russia. Now this Shimon became a teacher in Vilna. Vilna was in Lithuania, a big Jewish city. And he became a teacher, and he was a very good teacher. So soon they made him the supervisor of the school. But in reality, though he was a teacher and he became the supervisor of a religious boys' school, in reality, he was a maskil. He was one of these Enlightenment movement people. He was actually the leader of the Enlightenment movement in Vilna, which was all underground, clandestine. And the purpose of them infiltrating the schools was that the kids grew a little older and were ready to go to yeshiva. They used to look out for the most promising boys, and they used to convince them that they have great places of learning in Germany and other places. And the parents didn't really know what's going on, and they thought, wow, you have a yeshiva there for sure. But really, they were sending them to Enlightenment seminars, which were teaching them heresy and moving them away from Judaism, and they were losing their children in a very real way. Now, the biggest opposition to the Maskilim were the Hasidic movement. The Lithuanians, who are themselves built more on logic than on fervor, it was easy to infiltrate them. But the Hasidic movement, who were built on fervor, you couldn't just win them on enlightenment and logic. So they were a much harder bunch, and they had to, for their success, they had to downgrade the Hasidic movement. That was a big part of their thing. So Shimon, being a leader, he was appointed, as many of them were doing, was to travel around the different Hasidic courts to understand what makes them tick and to know how to, find the promising people there and somehow infiltrate into those groups and get them to think like the Haskalah, move away from faith, blind faith, into more logical ways. And Shimon was one of those who was sent away. Now, one of the emphasis of the Haskalah was when they learned Chumash, they didn't base it so much on the teachings of the rabbis, the oral Torah to explain. They emphasized more the diktuk, the grammar. And that was their way of, let's learn Chumash, but let's learn it the real way, the grammar way, instead of just homiletical stuff from the Talmud. So this Shimon ended up coming, part of his mission was to go to Liyazda, the seat of the Alter Rebbe, Chabad. And his job was to infiltrate and to get the Alter Rebbe to endorse some of the things he's trying to enforce in his as a new supervisor in Vilna in the school. So part of the story we know from when he wrote a letter to his colleagues. So he comes to Liyazda, and one of the first things he wants to meet the Alter Rebbe, so they give him an appointment a week later. Meanwhile, he comes to Liyazda and he gets sick. And just a week later, when it was ready, it's time to go have a yechidus, a private audience with the Rebbe, he got good enough to be able to go. And he writes about Liyazda, he describes the place with Alter Rebbe, the house where Alter Rebbe lived and he studied, and where people used to go greet him in his study, and also where the people used to wait, and we call the lower level of paradise, very holy place. And when people used to go out of the yechidus, a private audience with the Rebbe, the people used to dance with them. It was a very spiritual moment. And when people went to a private audience, they used to prepare themselves for days in advance to try to raise their level of holiness and purity, to be able to go into the Rebbe, great neshama, to have a way in serving Hashem in a better way. And he described that he was very much taken by everything that he saw, but he knew his mission, and his mission was to pull people out of there and get people thinking in the ways of the Haskalah movement. So he was waiting for the audience. When he came into the Yechidus to the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe was a great man, a great presence. And immediately he wrote in his letter, he felt a tremendous, overpowering sense of awe. He almost lost himself. He almost became a chassid at that time. But he quickly composed himself, and he knew he had a mission. And the Alter Rebbe, penetrating eyes, like we remember the Rebbe looking at him through and through. But he composed himself. He said, Rebbe, he said, I'm here. I am a teacher for children in the city of Zamut. And I teach Chumash with the emphasis on grammar and diktuk. And some of my fellow teachers do not agree with my method of putting emphasis on diktuk and grammar. And I believe, and he told Alter Rebbe, I know that you made a siddur, and in your siddur, you put emphasis on grammar as well. So I think you believe as well that it's a very good way of teaching the Chumash, the Torah, the Tanakh. And I want you to write me a letter to endorse my method of teaching. And maybe others will follow me and do the same. So that's what he asked the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe looks at him, stares him in the eye. And the Alter Rebbe says, you know, that diktuk in certain parts of prayer, it's very important to have the grammar correct, etc. But generally, it's more important to teach the Torah based on the teachings of the rabbis and the oral Torah. They find the Talmud, the Midrash, than grammar. Grammar is important for certain areas, but not for the whole Torah. You have to teach based on the teachings, because when you get caught up in grammar and you don't follow the teachings of the sages, you can enter a very shady area that can bring you to heresy. Then the Alter Rebbe put his head down again, and he lifts the things from him, lifts it up, and he says, tell me, how do you learn? It says that when Jacob stole the blessings from Esau, and then he leaves and Esau comes, and when he comes in, it says that Yaakov became like a tremor went through Yitzchak. When Yitzchak realized, when Esau comes and says, Dad, I'm here, give me my blessings. And Yitzchak realized that he gave the blessing for Esau, he gave it to his brother Yaakov. A tremor went through it. So how do you teach it to your children in school when you teach that verse? So he says, I teach it the way Rashi's first interpretation. That Yitzchak was astonished, like he was shocked that this is what happened to him. Alter Rebbe says, what about the second interpretation of Rashi, where he says that he saw the mouth of purgatory under the feet of Esau? Why didn't he teach that to the children? So he said, Rebbe, these are little children. Can't teach them about Gehinnom, purgatory. These are not things you teach little children. Little children, we teach the grammar. When they're older, if they want to learn, they learn, but this is not for little children. We don't believe in teaching that thing to little children. So then Alter Rebbe put his head down again. He paused, he put his head down. Then he lifted his head. Like we have here sitting two candles. The Alter Rebbe, whenever he had a private audience, he always had two candles. And there's a holiness about candles. He lifts up one of the candles and he puts it near the face of the Shimon from Zamut. And he says, what is a man who claims he lives in Zamut when he lives in Vilna? Who tries to tell me that he's teaching Torah when he's trying to bring people to heresy? The opening of purgatory lies right under your feet. How many children have you turned away from Judaism? How many children have you turned away from faith in Hashem? The Rashi is talking to you. The opening of purgatory is under your feet. The damage you have done, the Alter Rebbe said, I don't even know if it's redeemable. He says, get out of here right now and never teach another Jewish child again. And he was shaking. When he came out of the Yechidus, the Chassidim didn't know what happened inside. They grabbed him, they wanted to dance. He thought they grabbed him, they wanted to beat him up because the Alter Rebbe told them this guy's a bad guy, but they didn't. So they didn't know, they wanted to dance. He was in no mood to dance, he pushed his way out. He quickly went to the place guest house. He packed his bag early the next morning, he ran out of town. And he writes all this in a letter. But the word got quickly to Vilna. When he came back to Vilna, they fired him immediately, and they found out all the other people who were part of the light movement with him that were teachers, they fired them all. And this yeshiva, this school for children was saved, that no one would be turned against Hashem. And this is really what the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, and the Baal Shem Tov really fought. They did miracles because that's a tzaddik. When people need, they'll pray and they do miracles. But that's not the greatness of the tzaddik. The greatness of the tzaddik war that they searched the truth, and they wanted to help us search for the truth. And when they saw falsehood and people like this, when someone is openly disobeying Hashem, you know where they stand. But someone who is playing a game, trying to externally show people he's religious and he cares for what the Torah says, but really internally trying to destroy Judaism from within, they exposed these people to show the truth. And this is what Chassidus gives us. The gift that they gave to us of Chassidus is to see the truth of every individual Jew, how holy and special every Jew is. Avat Yisrael, love of a fellow Jew. You see the truth of Torah, that the only real guiding light, if you're searching for the truth of anything in this world, not just how to put on tefillin or Shabbos, but how to behave in all situations, whether at home and at work with other people, and how to go about your activities, not necessarily mitzvahs, all your activities. We want to find the truth of the guiding light, it's in Torah. And if you want to find Hashem, it's in Torah. That's what the real pursuit was to help us. So may Hashem help in their merit. They will be able to help expose falsehoods and see the truth in our life, in all the things around us, in every Jew. When you meet a Jew, don't look at what you see on the surface. Look deep inside and you'll see that really every Jew wants to be connected to Hashem. Every Jew wants to be part of the Jewish people. Every Jew really wants to do what's right, but they don't know yet. So we are there to help them fully and completely. And may their special birthday give us the strength to do this in the most beautiful way. As we come to the Rosh Hashanah, the new year, we'll have exposed the truth and the greatness of every one of us and who we are, what we mean to Hashem. This will help us have a happy, healthy, successful, productive year for us and our families, and for Klal Yisrael, all the Jewish people, and the whole world, to bring coming a Mashiach quickly in our days.
Amen.
Amen.
I want to wish Shavua Tov. We should have a great week, and let's sing together.
Shavua Tov.
Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi b'meira Yavayim Leinu Imashiyah Yafen b'meira Yavayim Leinu Imashiyah ben David Imashiyah ben David. Shavua Tov, we love you all. Have a great week.
Shavua Tov, everybody.
Shavua Tov.
Next Saturday night, 8:30. Be well, all the best.